Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks out there. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and I am here with all of the amazing and brilliant and just incredible people who make up this channel that is simulcast on the three platforms that you see before you. Yes, now, this week, we are dealing with the Tiger King. Now, some of you are very familiar with the Tiger King. It is a documentary that was released on Netflix, at least in the States, in that market. But many of you may not know who the Tiger King is. So, and you guys know, I like picking topics that either seemingly don't lend themselves to being particularly interesting, or would seem like they're very difficult, or maybe even just a little bit bizarre. And I love pulling from modern day pop culture. Um, the the Tiger King, that particular show, is a documentary about the the owning and care and sale and the drama that goes on behind the scenes with everyday citizens that happen to own very large conservatory parks that take care of lots of predatory cats, big cats as they call them themselves. And those big cats are primarily tigers, but it runs the gamut of all the feline animal, panthers and leopards and so on and so forth, and includes many other exotic animals. And these individuals start collecting them, and it focuses specifically around the lots of others orbit around this gentleman known as Exotic Joe. And there is a community of people, and the documentary goes into their bizarre behaviors and the machinations that go on, and the legalities and lack thereof of their actions, and their larger than life personalities. These when put together, their personalities seemingly seem like they don't fit. Ooh, I remember that guy. Yeah, there is a dead man in the Discord, and of course those of you out there, if you read below, yes, this show is simulcast on three various platforms, networks as it may be. And there is the gentleman, if you're unaware, there is a gentleman that has turned himself into a human cat with the tattoos and the body modifications and things like that. It's pretty strange and very bizarre. It looks very painful. That was posted into the picture of that dude was posted in the Discord. So today, Discord Tuesday, I've been generally, it has been formed around mechanics. Maybe we'll talk about that as well. But in general, the idea behind this show is the fact that you have this gentleman, Joe Exotic, who seems to be, I mean, he's larger than life, walks around with a gun. He owns seemingly hundreds, or at the time that the documentary was filmed, owns hundreds of cats, 200, I think 227 cats, wild cats, they said at one point. People come from all over that want photographs and to touch the cats and interact with them. And of course, he's got many other exotic animals, such as, bears and various types of monkeys and so many other things. And his arch nemesis. I didn't know that either, Tesla. That the cat man died in 2012. Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that. The 158. Okay. I did not know this. Stalking cat. His arch nemesis was a woman. I believe her name was Carol. And come to find out that she, is like trying to take him down, and she claims that I'm the one true person taking care of these cats, and they shouldn't be in captivity, and I'm only here to give them a place where they can live and die out for the rest of their days. Scott Post, like, what if it turns out that wanting to be a cat is just a fad? I don't think so. I yesterday, and I'll mention it today, that human beings, we as human beings, love to. I don't know how primal this is, but the idea that we can challenge our fears is a thing. You know, if there's a mountain, people want to get to the top of it to prove that they aren't scared to look down from above, right? If there are snakes or other kinds of reptiles, you know, we are entranced by the people who can overcome their fears and overcome these predatory things, these things that are lethal to us, and prove our dominance over them. And I think wow, these big cats are a prime example of that. They are completely designed to hunt and kill and tear their prey, right? They have these large dagger-like teeth that are only used to rip flesh. They have camouflaged bodies that allow them to stalk things for, you know, dozens, if not hundreds of kilometers if they want to. They're super fast. They have muscles that move under their skin, and sure, they like chin rubbies as well, and their tummy rubs and such. But when they want to eat, they eat. I mean, they are hyper focused, and even till today, there are lots of living things that are dangerous to us, whether spiders or snakes or alligators or something. And of course, there are the people who want to tame that. And I think that's where it comes from. Now, we were talking about some fun story ideas, because this does lend itself, especially this Joe Exotic and the people around him and these other hangers on, the unrepentant drug dealer that happens to also love feline conservation. You know, the I don't know, self-appointed shaman, swami, yogi that has surrounded himself with this young girl harem and considers himself to be spiritually above it all, and the woman Carol, who happens to have a slicker, more pleasing presentation to the thing that she does, trying to take down this Joe Exotic, who is loud and obnoxious and you know, self admitted redneck who happens to be gay and married to two men. It's like, you know, and you start scratching your head and you're like, this dude, the police, the sheriff out there in Oklahoma is like, you know, thinks it's like a powder keg, because he understands that if he ever has to exact an order or take a warrant or you know, put a bench warrant out for somebody out on a property, that he knows that this might become something lethal because of the amount of guns and things, and he's gone out and said that, you know, he'd rather shoot another human being than take any of his cats away from him. And so using that idea of I mean, we've talked about the trope of, you know, the air quotes, the scientist, the wizard that happens to be doing an experiment or something, and the dangerous thing gets out, and the PCs have to stop it. You know, we've seen that plenty of times. The rich and powerful nobles or merchants or whoever, even criminals that are surrounded by powerful, dangerous animals, and they want to use them for to, you know, bolster their own ego or their status in the community, or to garner fear around other people as well. And I love the idea of making it into, it's not just one person that's doing this thing that maybe the PCs know about. I mean, yesterday we talked about like the nature preserve filled with owl bears or something, right? I mean, on the surface, you may go, "Oh, I didn't know that existed," and then come to find out that there really is a whole underground of people dealing in these dangerous or magical, predatory animals that they just happen to be holding as pets, and the people who, despite the danger it would be for having all these things around, again, bringing up the 87 owl bears in the nature preserve and the fear that they might get out, there's also a lot of common people that want to see those kind of things. That's how they make their money, you know. Joe Exotic talked about the fact that every big cat cub out there can be worth upwards of $10,000, $40,000, $100,000 or more each in revenue from all of the interactions, the photographs, the petting, the feeding them, the oohs and ahs, the isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? Despite the fact that the dangers that are around them, and of course they have signage, and the people were always like, you have to be careful around them because they are dangerous, and they are extremely dangerous, as what happened to one of the individuals in the documentary series. Her forearm was shredded, and she was either told that she would have to have probably 2 years of reconstructive surgery after one of the cats mauled her arm, after it got pulled into one of the feeding pens, and she decided to have it amputated just below the elbow. And oops, I did it again. Oops, I did it again. And she returned to work. She claims 5 days to a week after having her forearm amputated, because she didn't want the cats blamed for it, and she didn't want Joe Exotic's business to go under because of a mistake that she made. And strangely enough, this the girl Saf, I believe her name, Safferty. Anyway, the young lady Saf, she seemed to be the most reasonable person. I don't know. Maybe she just happens to be one of these individuals with a psychology that just happens to be very neutral about things, because she seemed to be nonplussed about the whole incident and was like, well, made a mistake, that's my fault, and kept on going, like it was no big thing. Even the individuals that Joe Exotic pulled around him, I hate to say, but the downtrodden, the dregs, the cast-offs of society that he pulled into his orbit. And as was mentioned yesterday, like, you have to be, when you see, if you just take a look at the trailer of the documentary, you'll look at this guy and go, like, he's crazy. Like, how low do you have to be for you to have to look up to this guy? And I would say pretty low. People, cultists are pretty good at gathering individuals who are not at their best and taking them when they're at their lowest point and molding them like clay and bringing them into their zone. Whether that cultist individual thinks that they're a cultist or not, some people are just, they need to be surrounded by, to be appreciated, to be loved. As a matter of fact, a lot of people claim that there are many people in the entertainment industry that are they're whores for attention, as some people see today, as a lot of the entertainers, when they are dumped into the social medias that we are in as well, whether it's like YouTube or Twitch or MeWe or whatever platform they're on, and the rest of us are going like, so you don't have your stage to be on top of, whether you're a musician or an actress or actor or a politician or something. You're down here in the trenches with the rest of us trying to garner attention, and some of their crazies starting to pop out. I think this is the same thing with these big cats as well. It's something about them that I think when your personality, if you are a person with a personality that's able to overcome your fear of a thing, that you also take with you a personality trait that feels like you crossed over the gorge, and everyone, all the plebes, all the lesser people are on one side, and you jumped across the gorge, and now you're like, look at me, look how good I am. Yeah, I know you're jealous because I'm on this side of the fence, right? I'm on this side of the gorge. I'm on this side of the predatory animal, and I'm not scared, but he's there. I'm standing behind, you know, the roaring tiger, and I'm no longer afraid. I'm in a dominant position. I suppose the movie Avatar kind of dealt with that in the sense that I know strange IP to pull up for this moment, but in the movie Avatar, despite the simplicity of the plot, it was a matter of the outsider joining the Na'vi, the blue-skinned people running around in the woods, in the jungles and such, and how they all said there's this predator that's in the skies and you got to watch out for it. And, the lesson that he was able to dominate this predatory flying, I'm going to call it a tiger dactyl or something, simply because this creature never looked up above its own head, because it dominated the skies, and that's how he was able to jump on top of it and dominate it and weave his Navi hair braid tentacle things, neural tentacles or something into the creature, and of course he comes to, it's the Tarzan thing, right? But it makes a lot of sense, and maybe, just maybe, in your world, if you're going to include some of these like dangerous predatory animals, maybe one of the mechanical effects, yes, hard segue into mechanics, maybe there's something, maybe there is some kind of wives' tale, some kind of remedy or something that is able to pacify some of the most dangerous creatures out there. I mentioned yesterday about, say, basilisks. If you put a sack over the face of a basilisk, does it go numb or neutral like you would, say, a hunting falcon, right? Like, is that a thing? I mean, sure, we've all known about the Medusa, and you look at the Medusa's face and you turn to stone, and if you look away or in a reflection, it doesn't hurt you. And Medusa's head cut off and stuck in a sack, right? But would the same go for a basilisk, or is putting a sack over a basilisk's head a little bit a little bit of a foolish redundancy, because all it's going to do is just eat through the bag and turn you to stone anyway, or chow down on you? I don't know, but it's possible. Are there animals that are sensitive to being turned on their back and having their tummy rubbed? There are some animals that the minute you flip them over, they go, they are placated, they go numb. Maybe because there's something intrinsic about them that position, if a predatory animal is turned on its back and its stomach is turned up, that is a sign of submission. And despite the fact the predatory animal, it didn't willingly go into a state of submission, but is turned into a state of submission, that it just submits, period, whether it wanted to or not. I don't know. You could even do the same thing with some kind of scent, maybe like a scented incense or something, or the oils from a particular plant, or being fed a particular concoction that will put them to sleep or make them easily trainable. But it might reduce their predatory instincts as well, kind of like in a half sleep kind of thing. Oh, who knows? Some of these animals may also be sensitive or vulnerable to certain types of magics, much like various dogs could be trained to sniff out certain things. Maybe these predatory animals can sniff out not just specific individuals and hunt them down, but they could be on the smell for I don't know, certain types of spell components, or certain types of contraband being brought in or out of a city or something, or maybe even they're even sensitive to certain kinds of magics being cast, like, you know, enchantment, mind magics being used on one person or another, and they're just real sensitive to it. We know that animals have, that there's even the idea of animals being sensitive to the health and wellness of people. Dogs that can smell cancers in their charges, and I believe there was even a story about a young boy that had a dog, and a dog bit the young boy on the arm. Took the dog, and the dog kept sniffing the boy's arm. Eventually bit him. Took the boy to the hospital. Of course, they took the dog to the pound, and come to find out that it was because of a tumorous growth on his arm, and then they realized that the dog was like trying to tell the family and the kid that there was something wrong. And yes, they did get the dog back, but those kind of stories could happen in this strange, bizarre underground of predatory animals and cats that are the basis for maybe something like not just a side quest, but like a side story or something. And of course, all the problems that happen: animals getting loose, people being attacked, rich nobles wanting the PCs to capture one or more of these powerful exotic animals, the player characters being the middlemen in negotiating the transfer of one or more of these predatory animals in your world from one place to another. The idea of a traveling zoo or circus is a great idea as well. The misguidedness maybe of one or more individuals or changes thereof. Like we talked about a ranger having a nature preserve filled with owlbears because the owlbears were overbreeding and decided to capture them. B, didn't want to kill them, and now has become its own industry as people travel from far and wide to see the ranger with the trained owlbears. And on one hand, owlbears running around wild is dangerous, but then putting them all together in one location that might start slowly becoming overcrowded next to a very populated area might be a hazard in and of itself. And of course, you have all of the rich people that might be trying to offer the ranger money, and the ranger's like, no, I'm in it for the good of it, to save their lives. I'm not going, here to sell any of them. And of course, you may have, the rich people that's like, my money opens doors for me everywhere. You're not going to stop this. Or the criminals that are like, nah, just steal a couple of them because I want to sit there on my throne with them sitting at my feet because it makes me look cool. Now, if you wanted to turn this a little bit darker, it could be that these predatory animals are overbreeding, that there's something has happened in a particular community, or maybe the player characters have traveled somewhere where it's very common for the population to try to capture and use them for whatever reasons there are. Yeah. Red Dice Diary says, what if the PCs get hired to steal the owlbears under some pretense? Then they discover that the rich noble just wants them for his menagerie. I love that. I love that idea. And of course, you have the conundrum of a animal in captivity that may or may not survive on the outside. Do you trust the person that initially has them in captivity? Will you even trust the person on the other end you've been hired to take those animals to the other portion with the captivity? And then you have all of the great and vast numbers of people that have their own interests for any number of reasons. Maybe there's a Druidic cult that wants those owlbears released into the wild because that's the proper thing to do. Maybe there is a strangely morbid martyr cult that wants to kill them all because the idea of having domesticated owlbears itself is wrong on every level, right? It's wrong us to do it. It's wrong for the animals to be done that way. It's wrong for humanity to think that they could dominate such a thing, such an animal. Maybe it's creating an underground or criminality or danger. So maybe these people just want them all dead, you know, um, as a form of euthanasia, not because they're evil, but euthanizing them. There could be evil people that's like, yeah, we want to see chaos reign and just like release them into the population and see what happens. There could be individuals that feel like we have interrupted the natural flow and order, and if they kill people, it's just part of nature, and if they don't, whatever, you know. Red Dice is like, I don't know, man. Being the totem animal of a druid cult doesn't always end well for the animal. No, it doesn't. It's like the animal's like, you're wearing my skin. That doesn't bode well for me, does it? The druids are like, what do you mean? Release the hounds. Yeah, doesn't really end well. And the I love both the idea that because like a car wreck, like I mentioned yesterday, sometimes there are also people who just want to watch the goings on, right? When you see strangeness going on around you, some of us have a lot of fun. Like we're not necessarily interested in the outcome. We just want to see what the outcome is, right? We don't have a vested interest in one side or the other. We're just like, they're strange. Wonder what's going to happen. So it's a possibility that the population itself might just be hangers on for no other reason than hanging around. Especially if the PCs are like, we're the only ones. We're going to solve this thing, and they look behind them, and there's like 50 people that are like following them every day. Like, no, we just want to know what you're going to do. Like, stop following me. I'm a rogue, and I hide in the shadows. We're going to hide in the shadows with you, right? Like, get away from me. He says, get away, guys. You guys leave. We're going to stick around with the rogue, right? I mean, having these followers or something, follow the PCs and other people around, being surrounded by other individuals. There are even people who, in the documentary, you could claim that either they believe their own hype or they are faking their hype, but other people believe their hype, that they are, the owlbear whisperer. My very words. I'm a third generation owl whisperer, and my people that came before me, and I channel the spirit. The gnome is like, I channel the spirits of the wild elves that once dominated these and rode upon the backs of the owlbears that's been long forgotten. But only I am one with the wild elves. And oh wait, they're talking to me now. They're telling me that if you just leave a small donation in a pot over there, don't hand it to me. Leave it in the pot. Yes. A little bit more. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And you too can ride upon the owlbear for an hour. Yes. They have spoken to me. I mean, sure, there's some human beings that are, despite the fact that you're scratching your head, like, they're selling you a bunch of crap. They're talking out the side of their neck on this kind of thing, right? They're blowing smoke up your ass. Other people are like, no, I think the gnome's real. Yeah. There are those individuals. There are, and of course, if for the people who are, Dead Man says AD&D had groupies for fighters, thieves, and bards. Did they? Did they really? No. I remember in AD&D that if you reached I think it was between 7th to 9th levels in most classes, you garnered like it was retirement time for your player character, where you would garner people and you would build like if you were a cleric, you would build like a temple of some sort, or if you're a fighter, you were supposed to build a fortress, and they had rules for and the cost for building such things. If you were a thief, you'd start a guild yourself. So, but why not? Why wouldn't these people do such a thing? And if if you base your existence on status, and some upstart comes in with some exotic owlbears. I don't know why we're picking on owlbears today, but whatever. And someone picks some exotic owlbears, and they are garnering more attention than you. If you are some kind of political, social, entertainment individual whose life is based on status, you're going to want to throw a monkey wrench in that, right? There's some people who really want to throw their weight around and wonder, either attach themselves by um, attaching themselves to the coattails of this individual, or garner attention for themselves to take down this other person for no other reason than being the antithesis, only not because they really hate this other person, but just because it's a stance to get you more attention than someone else. And also, maybe this person or these groups of people that are hoarding these dangerous animals, making their own economy of sorts around them. It's also possible that they are they're a wild card. They are the wild card in a time when nations are at a standstill, where possible violence could break out. Maybe there is a turf war going on with criminals. Maybe there's something going on with the changing of leadership in a particular community, whether there are nobles or there's an oligarchy or council members or whatever the case may be, type of government. And then to have this pop up and not know what's going on. So maybe the PCs could be spies, or the PCs themselves are caught up in such a thing because everyone assumes that they're part of this, the goings on, and every time the PCs say no, this just reinforces in other people's heads. They say no, but they're really part of the Joe Exotics group. Of course, you don't have to use Joe Exotic exactly, but as an NPC, their personalities, a lot of these people are pretty bizarre. And like the thumbnail says for the show, Stranger Than Fiction, maybe sometimes we might get in the habit of not making our NPCs as wild and crazy as we should, because there are people in the world that fall on either end of the extremes, and maybe we sit too soundly in the middle. The reasonable merchant, or the reasonable armorer, or the reasonable tavern owner. Maybe these people are just a little bit unreasonable. Maybe they have they're feeding they now have garnered or surrounded themselves with things in such a way that they're able to live their lives the way they want to. That's also a possibility as well. Meaning, like, we all wish we could be our dream selves, that we could reshape and reform and rejigger our lives, and look on the other side where the grass is greener and go, man, I wish I would have been this other person. And there are some people who are so well off due to money and fame and privilege and stuff, that they are living their lives that way, whether we like it or not. I'm looking at you, the previous owner of Playboy magazine, who decided to conduct his business in bed, in a smoking robe, surrounded by young nubile young ladies or something. I'm looking at you, Michael Jackson, surrounding himself with children and building a theme park and stuff. You could go, mind you can go on and on with the famous and the rich and powerful, right? There are many people who just want to be surrounded by yes men and women, right? People who just come up to them, yes, yeah, absolutely, yes. That idea you have, yep, Hugh Hefner, yeah, but you get my, not them specifically, but you get my point, right? It's the idea that there are people who able to live their better lives. Now, mind you, leading a life like that might not be good for the rest of us. I'm looking at you, documentary, unrepentant drug dealer in the documentary, not just drug dealer, but a kingpin who eventually got out of jail and was like, I love big cats. I think I'm going to be a conservationist. Now, I don't know exactly, you know, how much of a conservationist he is, or whether he just wants to be cool, claiming that I think some people say that his life was based around the character from Scarface. So he's the real life individual that was based around Scarface. So maybe, yeah. Scott Poe says, someone should check and make sure the Tiger King doesn't have two left hands. Yeah, Rakshasa, hands backwards, or how the thumbs and the fingers bend. The hell, whatever. You get the point. Why not? Why not have something like that? I mean, not all evil plots are world domination. Some evil plots are, I want everyone to think that I'm the best. Right? I just want to be admired. I want people to worship me in the sense of becoming groupies. And some people just want to be surrounded by an entourage. They want people to come to them. And what better way than an evil Rakshasa that starts a zoo and just collects gold and has people when they come into the zoo and leave the zoo. Oh, let me shake your backwards hand. This is so amazing. Golly, I can't wait to bring my friends and family back. I love what you've done here. You've got Pegasi and wyverns, and there's a manticore. I've never seen a manticore up close. My uncle went out to slay creatures, but the fact you have them in cages and I can see them up close, it really brings me close to the arcane mythological creatures that those adventurers claim that they slay, and I don't half believe. I think they just pour like fake green chemicals in their weapons and claim their blood, but I got to see them for real. Thank you so much. And Rakshasa's like, yeah, my evil plot has worked. I will sell T-shirts and overpriced foods in the concession stands. Yes, I mean, I'm being very quite silly, but maybe who says a pit fiend isn't like, all I want to do is open up a theme park. That's so what. I've got hellhounds and devil dogs and what are some other dangerous things? Displacer beasts and whatnot. Maybe that's what I want. Winter wolves. I don't know. Red Dice Diary says, what if the Rakshasas disposes of his enemies by polymorphing them permanently into the animals in his zoo? Then he charges people to see them? Why is his name George? I thought it would be nice. I used to know a George had gambling debts. George disappeared. Why is that animal looking at me like, George? See, he looked at me again. That's really weird. Right? Thank you, Tesla. A lad does backwards handshake. Yeah, it's weird. It's very, very weird. Yeah. Oh, I better not do that. But yeah, those backwards hands are. It always makes my it's body horror to me. Sorry. It's why I don't like, what is it, the gibbering or the gibbering mouther, the ooze with all the eyes and mouths on it. Ugh, ugh, ugh. But heck, that could be in a cage or something. Now, mind you, something doesn't need to be a particular zoo, but I like Red Dice Diary's idea of a zoo filled with the polymorphed individuals that are harmed. Hell, the Nine Hells probably has a vast zoo with people that were taken down there and punished to be in this vast zoo for no other reason than just to be there, to be looked at and fed, and maybe even beaten about the head and shoulders for being in such a location, and as well as the fact that, excuse me, wow, whether someone is an alchemist or a wizard or something, these animals could be the polymorphed animals could be harnessed for particular reasons, or bought and sold to their enemies and friends and allies alike. Um, like, how cool would it be for a drug dealer to have their feet up on the back of a white tiger, but that white tiger used to be someone that owed them gambling debts, and to pay it off, they have to live permanently or even temporarily as this thing, trying to earn their way out of it. A particular community may this could even come from a form of uh, punishment. It is it is a normal punishment to maybe sit in the circle. Like, there's a if you try to lie inside of the circle of truth, you are taken to a monument or a monolith or someplace out in the wild, and the to be sentenced, and something strange happens to you, and you polymorph into an animal most related to your crimes. So maybe you get turned into a snake or a boar or something like that. Yep. Yep. Red Dice Diary says it'd be like Pinocchio when he turns into a donkey. Exactly. Maybe the gods or a specific location, or I don't know. Periodically, there's like a chaos storm that sweeps through, and anyone not enclosed or protected by hexes put on their door. If you're outside during the chaos storm, when the red winds and purple rains and purple rain, sorry, and black lightning bolts strike out of the sky, and you're outside, you might not return back to the way you were. When the family opens the door and they see a slug sitting at their door, they're just like, "Oh, I knew she was slug-like in her life. Come on in, Sluggy. We'll put you in a jar, keep you around until next year when the chaos storm sweeps back through. Maybe you'll turn back into your normal self and you learn something from this." Right? I don't know. It could be. The opposite is true. In the role-playing game Feng Shui, there was a group called the Ascended, and of course it's a role-playing game, but they pull from a type of mythology where animals desire to become human, and it's not that they are shape changers or polymorphers. It's the idea that it's a one-way trip for them to go from animal-like to human-like, and then magic. They are vulnerable to magic, and they don't want to revert back to human. And the within the game, you can play a human being. You look human. You look absolutely human, but you still retain the martial powers of the animal that you had come from. So if you used to be a snake but you become a human being, you can remove your skin and to look like someone else, or you can slip into very narrow areas, or you're very good at grappling or something, right? Or your hands or something are like poisonous. You can do like a martial strike and strike someone in your three elements poison, cobra strike or something, and when you attack them with your martial arts, they can be poisoned or whatever. Like, it's possible maybe there is a druidic organization, almost like investigators, trying to return the animals back to where they should be, and so they are keeping and capturing these animals because they are the ones who are trying to ascend, because they are trying to become humans, or maybe they are the humans that were investigated, captured, and returned back to being animals again, or maybe they are. There's an underground, much like animals, like werewolves, have an affinity for other wolves. Maybe there's some kind of connection out there as well in terms of a class of individuals that are able to draw in these other predatory animals. I don't know what would be the equivalent to something, being able to charm or gather basilisks together. I suppose a Medusa fits into that, but maybe there's in your world, say your prototypical dwarf. Maybe the dwarf just happens to be. There are people who just are born as predator whisperers, right? And maybe there's like a dwarven clan or something that just doesn't get polymorphed into stone, doesn't get turned into stone, and they're the ones that are able to speak to and train and even summon these basilisks or something. Or maybe there's a dwarven child was kidnapped, but the basilisks are going after the dwarven child not to kill it, but to like protect it, surround it, or something. And they ride on their backs or whatever, and it presents a danger in and of itself. And of course, maybe they're not evil, but they've been treated so badly that the dwarven clan has started to become far more brutal and lethal because of the harm that's happened to them. They've been kicked out of their own mountain clan. One of their kids gets kidnapped or runs away, and then hilarity ensues when the PCs are both not trying to look at them at the same time as they're trying to solve the situation. We've seen many times where stories where you turn evil on its head. So, meaning like what on the surface the evil people may not be evil, they could be justified in what they're doing. They're just going about it the wrong way. And the goodly people, despite the fact that everyone thinks of them as goodly, might be doing the wrong thing. The paladin's order that is capturing and imprisoning these wild animals could be causing the very anger from the goblinoid armies that are out there, simply because the goblinoids are like, we use them as like mounts and hunting partners, and we never bothered you, and now you're going out there trying to take away our livelihood. Like, we're going to come into town and we're going to take them back and release them into the wild. Like, they belong to us, And of course, the paladin's order is like, well, you didn't ride on their backs in the first place. The wargs are evil. The goblinoids are like, and no, compared to you, you think we're evil, but it's your fault we're here. So give us back our stuff, and we'll leave you alone. And some people double down on their bad choices as well. The again, the story in Ohio where the gentleman owned so many wild animals, and when the sheriff was finally forced to try to shut him down, he killed himself and let all the wild animals loose. And unfortunately, the community had to kill the majority of those wild animals because they were both wild and domesticated. And the idea of the wizard who is trying to do his experiments, but the community wants to shut the wizard down. Or maybe there's a wizard's council that goes around and maybe certain wizard groups or certain wizards are doing experiments that are giving everybody else a bad name. And they're like, we need to shut you down. And he's like, no! And he goes up in a ball of fire or translates himself to another realm and lets all of his experiments loose into the world. And that's where you get owlbears and, I don't know, chimera and other animal plus other animal part plus other animal part. That used to be, it still is, the catch-all for a lot of monsters. A wizard created it. Gelatinous cube, a wizard's experiment. The chimera, some say it was the gods, others say it was a wizard's experiment. How many times has that happened? Maybe we can really go after the wizard's experiment and go into a zoo filled with such a thing, or a protected land. We've seen many times the narrow tower that's bigger on the inside than the outside. It could be filled with some of these monsters, some of these strange monsters as well. Now, if you wanted to allow some sort of the classic idea of going into the dungeon, killing the thing, and taking its stuff, trope has been done plenty of times. But maybe capturing the thing is the goal to get the treasure outside it. And I say treasure very loosely. For example, people milk poisonous snakes snakes, like cobras, and the milking of the cobra is to get the venom out. So the the danger is capturing the cobra. The end result is getting the poison as a result, as opposed to killing the cobra and then finding poison in the treasure. Maybe it is, you know, finding something either through the killing of the animal or the capture of the animal and then getting something else after it. A druidic cult that wants to return these mutated animals like a chimera or owlbear back to the wild, even though they've been mutated. But the druidic cult then, grants the party some kind of herbalist concoction or alchemical remedy, or they pull a tree branch off of a tree and hand it to the barbarian, and come to find out it's a big old magic club or something or whatever, something like that. So maybe the gifts aren't necessarily the treasure of killing the thing, but bringing the thing back and having it excised. Another thing, if those people that are those criminals or innocent people that were polymorphed, I'm looking at you, Cersei, or the Isle of Dr. Moreau is another idea with that, where you have the innocent people that are the animals captured, and the PCs must not only sneak onto the island or be spies inside of the groups of people that go and watch, or the mistake of Jurassic Park, right, where someone decides to bring in or create or polymorph or grow these extra powerful creatures for something, and dangerous creatures, and the PCs are stuck somewhere like a Jurassic Park, and the animals get loose. Mind you, they don't have to be live animals like even dinosaurs or something. They could be something extremely exotic, or even in science fiction, something many things pulled from other worlds, or even through genetic manipulation, or both. I'm looking at you there, xenomorphs, and now the PCs have to figure out, okay, how are we going to survive? How do we get off the island? The next ship isn't coming for a while, and at some point we can't run forever, and we have to go after the MacGuffin. Maybe there's some other reason in there. Maybe there's a criminal that the PCs have to go after, or there's a book of magic they need to find on the island while they're stumbling around on the Isle of Dread or whatnot. Deadman says that one of the expansions for the Neverwinter Nights PC game, there's a menagerie of many different creatures in the wizard's barn. Yeah, and of course, you guys know me. I love tension timers, and I love messing with the environment. But with wild animals, you could do this very same thing, right? Let's say the PCs go somewhere, and locked in cages are these very dangerous creatures for whatever reason, but they're locked away. And then later on, the PCs either come through and they realize that somebody came by and opened up the cages. Then not only do you have to deal with the opened cages, you also have to deal with the fact that they know someone went and did it in the first place. So, I don't know, 12 cages are now open. You have 12 dangerous things out there in the wild, running through a complex or out in the jungles or what have you. And you have a 13th element. At least one person or a faction has opened up those cages. Who did it? How did it happen? How were they released? And so it's like a mystery combined with a growing danger of these things that got out. And of course, maybe the dangerous things that were captured, each of them has their own agenda, whether they're mindless or not. An ooze that, when it absorbs more and more biological material, it gets bigger and bigger. A tiny little Tarrasque in a cage that it once released, much like a fish, that when it's released into a larger population, it's able to grow to its real size. Or a baby I don't know, a baby bird or a rock that's the size of a human being, screams out for its mommy, and its mommy is like, oh, that's where it's at, and mommy, that's the size of a jetliner, comes flying in, from dozens of kilometers away, on a neighboring island, looking for its little baby chick that just got released. Ooh, I don't know if you guys heard that or felt that, but that was thunder. We've got storms coming through. Man, that shook this house. Wow. Yeah, I'm with you, Kitty. Yeah, it did scare me too a little bit. Felt like it was like right overhead. Sorry. So yes, matter of fact, we've actually come to the end here. So that's actually kind of cool. So anyway, guys, tomorrow is World Building Wednesday, and of course we have third pillar of exploration Thursday to talk about this. But yeah, tomorrow maybe we will build ourselves our own zoo, or even come up with a way where the player characters possibly are like, why would they be preserve attendants, or maybe even collecting these animals for some particular reason, either to protect the community, or maybe there's some kind of like danger or something going on, and the PCs are involved in it, and maybe even being on opposite sides of their particular agenda. They do know that these wild animals out there are a danger to the population, and so they gather their gear, they gather their lethal weapons, they gather their smarts together to go out to stop the thing, and maybe later in the adventure they have to deal with the thing. Also, lastly, I could imagine pulling this into your game after the fact. The PCs have returned from an adventure, and after returning from their adventure, they got a dragon's egg or something. Hey, Scott, take it easy as well. When they got their dragon's egg, at fourth level or something, they figured they'd give it over to one of the NPCs in the game, and then come to find out that dragon egg not only gave birth, but now there's a collection of other things, and the PCs are like, ooh, did we cause this? And the answer is, yeah, maybe it is your fault, right? You weren't around, you were out there adventuring. So anyway, guys, have a great one. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.